So we are continuing our series this morning, Fully Committed. If you were here last week, or even if you weren't here last week, we talked about, in order to be fully committed to God, we have to lay a proper foundation, right? If we're going to build a house, we have to start with a foundation. We don't start with a roof. Start with the foundation. We talked about that foundation being the Word of God, teachings of Jesus. And if we do what Jesus says and we follow his commands, then we are the wise man who built his house upon the rock. But if we don't, we are that foolish man who built his house on sand. So this morning we are continuing the series, and we're going to be talking about being fully committed to spending time with God. And what that looks like. Because, in any relationship that we have, there has to be proper communication. Right? Just think, if you're married, there has to be good communication with your spouse. No matter what relationship you're in, there has to be good communication, or the relationship's just not going to work very well. And I'm not talking about just, pass you by, hi, how you doing kind of talk. No, I'm talking about an intimate relationship, intimate conversations. And because that's how in an earthly relationship, we need communication, we need stability, we need all those things. When we're talking about God, we need even more so. And again, it's not just so we can check it off the list and say, God, yep, there you go. How you doing? I'm good, you're good, I'm good, and check, and we move on with our day. This is intimate time we're talking about. How do we get fully committed into spending this intimate time with God? So when we have relationships, there needs to be a sense of vulnerability, openness. So we can go to God all the time and say, God, everything's good, I'm great, how are you? You ever pass somebody and they, how you doing? I'm good, and neither of you are good. But that's what we say, we're good. I'm just going to one day say I'm bad and just see, okay, now what? Just see what someone says. But that's how we kind of treat God. God, I'm good, you're good, we're all good, and then we just go on our way. When was the last time you were really vulnerable before God? Really open before God? Cried to God? Laugh with God? You can laugh with God. It is okay. You're allowed to. When was the last time you did any of those things? In a relationship, if any relationship that you're in, if one person's always doing the talking, the other person's just standing there, not responding, ever, how deep is that relationship going to go? It's not. Okay? It's a very stale relationship. That's what we do with God all the time. Right? We might read, God speak to me, God speak to me, God speak to me. But how often do we just sit down and just talk to God? It's a relationship. It's a two-way street. We need both of those. And there's a deep theological word that I'm going to teach you this morning. You learn it in Bible college, you learn it in seminary, you learn it, when you're reading, these deep theological books. It's this big word that means talking to God. Prayer. You ever hear of it? Prayer. It's simple. It's how we talk to God. God speaks to us through his word. We speak to God through prayer, and we have a conversation. That's how we speak to God. And if we're going to build the walls of our house, we have our foundation. Now we're going to look at building the walls. And we're going to do that through spending time with God. And the passage that we're looking at this morning is a passage that you probably read, maybe you've read, but it's one of those verses that you read and you kind of glance over. You don't pay attention to it because you don't think it matters. And I know it sounds bad to say that, but sometimes that's what happens. And we're going to be looking at Mark chapter 1. And in this passage, we see Jesus, he's getting baptized. He calls his first disciples, follow me, follow me, follow me. And then, he's casting out demons, he's healing people. But again, there's a verse that I want to look at. It's Mark chapter 1, verse 35. And this is what it says. Before daybreak the next morning, Jesus got up and went to an isolated place to pray. Before daybreak, Jesus got up to pray. Jesus sets the example here in this passage. He understands the importance of prayer. Jesus got up early and prayed to the Father. He went to an isolated place to pray. In John chapter 17, it's one of my favorite passages. It's what I refer to as the Lord's Prayer. The Lord's Prayer, typically we think of our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. That's, the Lord's Prayer. John chapter 17, in my mind, is the Lord's Prayer because it's actually the Lord praying. The Lord is in the garden before he's arrested, and he's praying. His disciples are supposed to keep watch and pray. Miserably, they fell asleep. But Jesus, he's praying. And Jesus is praying so hard. Jesus is so into it, so passionate, that he starts sweating. You ever pray so hard that you started sweating? And not only was Jesus sweating, Jesus was so anxious. He was so into his prayer that he started sweating blood. Now, this was not a supernatural thing. This is a physical condition. When blood vessels that go into your sweat glands burst, they start coming through your pores. And that happens when you're under intense emotional, physical, mental anguish, anxiety, turmoil. When it's so bad that those blood vessels just burst into your sweat glands and you start sweating blood. Jesus was praying with such earnest, and he was so anxious and so stressed that he started sweating blood. Why? What had him so worked up? What had him so stressed? We tend to think maybe it was the fact that he knew he was getting arrested and he was going to be beat and he was going to hang on a cross and he was going to die, and that probably had something to do with it. But for me, I believe it was more of a spiritual thing. The spiritual aspect of what was about to happen, because in a short period of time, Jesus was going to be hanging on the cross. And while on the cross, all the sin of the world were going to be on his shoulders. He became sin for us. He who knew no sin became sin for us on the cross. And for a moment, the Father has to turn away because he can't look upon sin. And I believe that's the turmoil that Jesus was dealing with, not being with the Father. That tormented him so much. When Jesus says, "Let this cup pass from me," well, was he talking about the physical aspect of what was happening? It could have been. But I believe it was that spiritual aspect, not to want to be disconnected at all from the Father. When is the last time you needed God that bad? That you being apart from God just for a moment wasn't going to sit well with you. That's what Jesus was facing here in this passage. He was stressed. He was anxious. He did not want that. You know, we tend to care more about our relationships here on earth than we do about our own with the Father. That's because we can see these relationships. But how much do we long for God? I know for me, there was times where like Katie would take the girls and go to her mom's house or go to her sister's house and have girl time. Whatever that means. I don't know. I don't care. Go do your thing. I'm not a girl. I stay home. I don't do girl time. And, you know, if you have kids, or if you have grandkids, you know there's that point in time where you just were quiet. Like a minute. Just shh. Stop. Stop fighting. Stop screaming. Stop arguing. Stop. Just quiet. And I know I have 4 girls, and they talk a lot. They're all amazing kids. They're so loud. They're Italian girls. They're very, very loud. Are they get it from me? I know. And that's what I passed on to them. They are very welcome. There you go. And so I would come home because Katie would go away, and I'd walk in the door from work, and it'd be quiet. And for a moment, you stand back and you're like, no crying, no fighting, no whining. But you know what else there wasn't? Hi, Daddy. Love you. Missed you. Welcome home. Those kind of things. And immediately I would miss them. So I'd call. You know, you guys okay? You guys doing? You guys having fun? What's your time? You guys painting your nails now? Doing your hair? What do you guys do? Bacon? Can you bring me some food? Can I come paint my nails? Because I miss you guys so much. And I just want to be with them when they're not. You know, there's a part where it's like, yeah, go, and then when they're gone, it's like I need you back. And then I think of my relationship with the Lord. Have you ever just been going throughout your day and just missed God? God, I haven't talked to you today. I miss you. It's been a couple of days. God, it's been a week. God, I haven't talked to you in a month. God, it's been 5 years. God, I miss you. And what's amazing to me about this verse in Mark, that Jesus goes to this isolated place to pray, is that Jesus is God. And he still sees need to take time out of his busy schedule to go pray. Now, if Jesus saw fit to start his day with prayer because his day was too busy, I venture to say we should do the same. Jesus knew the importance of prayer. Now, it doesn't say what Jesus prayed about. I don't know what he was praying about in this passage. He could have been praying for you. He could have been praying for me. He could have been praying for the people that he was going to speak to that day. You know, that they get saved, that they get healed. I have no idea. Maybe he just wanted to talk to his dad. But the point is, he took time to pray. Now, some of you might be sitting here this morning and saying, well, Pastor Steve, I don't know how to pray. I don't like praying in public. I don't know how to pray. You know, I never went to Bible school, so that means I'm not allowed to pray. I don't know any fancy words. I'm embarrassed when I pray because I don't know how. The cool thing is, and the amazing thing is about having God's Word as your foundation, as we learned last week, is everything you need to know is built in the foundation. Remember last week we talked about the Sermon on the Mount? In the middle of the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus teaches us how to pray. It's right in here. So let's take a look at it. Matthew chapter 6, verses 7 to 13. It says, when you pray, don't babble on and on as the Gentiles do. They think their prayers are answered merely by repeating their words again and again. Don't be like them. For your Father knows exactly what you need even before you ask him. But pray like this. Our Father in heaven, may your name be kept holy. May your kingdom come soon. May your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today the food we need and forgive us our sins as we have forgiven those who sin against us. And do not let us yield to temptation, but rescue us from the evil one. This prayer that Jesus is a model. It's short, it's sweet, it's to the point. What Jesus does is he says, he acknowledges who God is, he asks for his will to be done, God, keep your promises, and forgive sin. This isn't a prayer that we need to pray over and over again. This is just a model. What Jesus is saying is, listen, when you pray, it's between you and God. It's not about impressing anyone. It's not about sounding smart. It's not about knowing the right words. I've had prayer time where I literally just sat there because I didn't know what to say. And the Bible says, if you don't know what to say, it's okay, the Spirit will speak for you. And I just sat there. God, I don't know what to say right now, so I'm just going to sit. And I'm going to sit in your presence. It's not about impressing. It's not about how you sound. It's just having a conversation with the Father. Now, for me, I go on prayer walks. That's how I go. Because and prayer walk started in college. Because I remember one night, I'd be sitting at my desk in college, and I'd be doing devotions, and I did my devotions at night, which I since learned was not a good idea because of what I'm going to tell you. And I'd pray. So, I sit at my desk, and Lord, and I'm talking, and all of a sudden, now if I put my head down, it's a little more comfortable. So, Lord, like I was saying, and then I wake up the next morning. And I fall asleep. I have no idea what I said. I just fall asleep. So I realized, God, if I want to have that intimate time with you, I cannot be falling asleep. So I decided I'm going to have a conversation with God like I would have a conversation with anyone else. And I would go on prayer walks. So I would walk around Lancaster, the college, in the city, and I would be talking to God. Now, I'm Italian. I talk with my hands a lot. And they say if you want to have an Italian stop talking, tie his hands around his back, and I believe, see, I can't talk. That is true. So, I would be walking around the city, praying to God. That's what it looked like. Can only imagine what people were thinking. There's one of those crazy Bible kids. Call the police, call someone because that guy's out again. So if you've ever seen me walking around Roaring Spring, and no one else is around me, don't call the police. Please tell your neighbors, the pastor's not crazy, he's just praying. Okay? That's how I do it. And you know what? When I'm praying that way, I really don't care who's watching. I don't care if someone's right across the street saying, that guy's crazy. That's okay. Because when I'm praying, it's between me and God. I'm not worrying at that moment what I look like. I'm not worrying about what I sound like. Because God already knows who I am. I'm not trying to sound smart. Because I already know God will see right through that. I'm having a conversation with my Father. And I'm not worried about it. We have prayer on Tuesday mornings. I'm just praying. When I pray here in church, don't take this the wrong way. I'm praying on your behalf, but I'm praying to God. So, you're not here when I'm praying. It's me and him. There's no one else in the room. Remember that when you were in love? I mean, hopefully you still are if you're married. And, you're on a date. There's no one else in the room. It's just you and the other person. Nothing else. A truck could drive right through the restaurant. It's just me and you. I'm so in love. When I pray, that's how I am. God, there's no one else here. It's me and you. I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to cry to you. I'm going to laugh with you. I'm going to be angry with you at times. But no matter what, I'm going to be committed to talking to you. See, we say that we want God. We say that we want to hear from God, but we don't want to spend the intimate time with God. It doesn't work that way. If we want to hear from God and have a relationship with Him, we need to spend time with Him. How do you build relationships? You spend time with people. You don't just automatically know somebody. You spend time with them. You talk with them. That's all God wants. Have you ever heard of the Bible study, 5 love languages? Yes? No? Maybe so? Sure. Cool. There's a Bible study called the 5 love languages now. You've heard of it. Right? And this Bible study, Kate and I did it while we were in Shippensburg. We had a Bible study, and a whole bunch of us couples, we did this Bible study, the 5 love languages. And the point of it is to figure out how you receive love. Not how you show love, how do you personally receive it? Because we all receive love different ways. And there's like 5 different things. There's gifts, act of service, physical touch, words of affirmation, and quality time. And you go through the study and you figure out how can people show me love? And it's usually one of these things. If I were to give God a love language, I don't know if He's going to let me do this. I don't know if I can do this on His behalf, but I'm going to. Again, if God had a love language, I believe His love language is quality time. Before gifts and service and all these other things that we do which are really good, God wants us first. God sent Jesus to die for us, to have a relationship with us. He wants to spend time with us. So I believe God would be quality time. He longs for that. That's what He wants. He wants those deep discussions. He wants those prayer walks. He wants you sometimes shaking your fist. He wants you crying with Him. He wants you laughing with Him. That's what a relationship is. We show God how we love Him, not necessarily by how much we do, but how much we spend time with Him. Do you remember the story of Mary and Martha? If you don't know the story of Mary and Martha, you're in luck. I'm going to read it. Okay? Luke chapter 10. As Jesus and His disciples were on their way, He came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to Him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet, listening to what He said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to Him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me." "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." See, God is not concerned with how much we do for Him until we're first at His feet worshiping Him. This isn't an idea of how much can I do for God. God's saying, listen, just sit at my feet and worship me. Yes, we were created to do good works, and yes, I want you to do good works, and yes, I want you to do these things, but not at the expense of sitting at my feet and worshiping me first. Know the God who you serve. How can we serve God if we don't know Him? How can we live for God and be committed to Him if we don't know Him? We know Him by spending time with Him in prayer. And that's what Jesus was saying. Martha, listen, Mary's chosen was better. It's better to sit at my feet and worship me. Okay? So when we're looking at, A.W. Tozer says this: if a man wants to be used by God, he cannot spend all his time with people. If a man wants to be used by God, he cannot spend all his time with people. And Martin Luther says, "I have so much to do that I shall spend the first 3 hours in prayer." How many of you have ever said, "I am too busy to pray"? I've said it. As a pastor, it's crazy how as a pastor, again, I've said this before, how you get caught up in this cycle. Because you think as a pastor, you're doing all these things for God, and so obviously God and I work cool, but that's not always the case. I get so busy, sometimes I become Martha. I'm so busy doing for God that I forget that God just wants me to spend time with Him. Because when I don't spend time with Him, I find that I'm doing stuff like this, preaching, and all these things in my own power, and that's never good. We get our strength from Him. It's not about how much we do for God, it's about spending time with Him. And as a pastor, I have to sometimes take a step back and say, listen, God, we haven't spent quality, intimate time together. Yes, I spent time studying my sermon and, praying with people and visits and those kind of things. But God, did we actually spend quality time, me and you, just the two of us? God, I'm too busy. We use that excuse all the time. God, I'm too busy. And what these men are saying is, Martin Luther are saying, yes, I am busy. That's why I'm going to spend the first 3 hours of my day in prayer. Because I have a busy day today, a lot going on. I'm not saying spend the first 3 hours of your day in prayer. What I am encouraging you to do is spend time in prayer with God. That intimate time. Again, this isn't just, hey God, how you doing? Hub-a-dub-dub, thanks for the grub, and be on your way, or... That's not intimate time. When's the last time you sat down and actually told God how you felt about something? When's the last time you just sat at His feet? When's the last time you longed to be at His feet? Because I'll tell you what, if you go long enough without sitting at His feet, it just becomes whatever, I don't care. Until you do it, you're like, I really missed this. I missed that time. Because I'll be completely honest with you, and it shares in the first service, it's one of those things that doesn't pop in my head. I shared earlier, if the girls go away for a weekend, and I miss them. There was a hard time of our lives last summer where we had a major construction going on in our house. There was let's just say I tried to do a project. That's where we're going to leave it. And the ceiling came down, and there was dust everywhere. The girls couldn't live there. I lived there because I thought it was my problem. I had to fix this thing. So they moved and basically lived with her parents. A week went by, a month went by, 2 months went by, 3 months go by. You know what started happening? At first, I really missed them not being there. After a while, and this is regrettable, I don't feel good about this, it got easier that they weren't there. I got used to it. I knew when I came home from work, I was going to come to a quiet house. I could basically do whatever I want. Didn't have to deal with any fighting, didn't deal with any mess. I could just come home. And I didn't miss them. That sounds awful. I did what I did, you know what I'm saying? Until they came home. And it was like, oh my goodness. I forgot how good, it's so dumb. You shouldn't have to, I forgot how good it was to have your family with you. But it was like they got home and it was like, wow, this is amazing. I miss you guys so much. And when we're not careful, that's the same thing we do with God. At first, we're like, man, God, I missed our time together. If we keep letting that go, before you know it's going to be like, I don't need to spend time with God, it's okay. And then we finally get back into it, it's like, man, God, why did I ever stop doing this? That intimate time with Him. As I mentioned earlier, Katie and I were we did the Love Language Bible study. And I learned a couple of things. I learned that my love language is quality time. And I learned that Katie's love language is words of affirmation. Now, low on my list is acts of service and gifts. It is down. I appreciate it. But as far as love languages, it's down. So, what if Katie, on a regular basis, kept, giving me gifts and these kind of things and, doing acts of service, trying to show me how much she loves me? I'm going to feel appreciated, but that's not my love language. Katie's is words of affirmation. So if I spend all of my time doing the laundry, and this is not happening that way, but doing the laundry, doing the dishes, vacuuming, two things are going to happen. Number one, she's not going to feel loved because she's going to think, oh, he thinks that I'm not doing a good job, so he's doing it himself. I'm going to get myself in a deeper hole. Number two, she doesn't want me to show her how much I love her. She wants me to tell her. She needs to hear it. She needs to hear how well she's doing. These words of affirmation, that's how I show her. God appreciates it. I believe that God, yes, thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for serving. Thank you for giving. I appreciate that, and I can see where it's coming from. But first and foremost, I want you to spend time with me. I need that quality time. That's what I want. You're my child. You're not a stranger off the street. You're my child, and I want to spend time. So as we get ready to close, I'm going to go ahead and call the worship team up and we can start getting ready. But the one question I have is, what keeps us from worshiping God or from praying to God? And I started thinking this, and I started thinking in my own life, what keeps me from prayer? What keeps me from going to the throne of God? And a couple of things popped in my mind. You know, there's a whole laundry list of reasons, but as a pastor, you're supposed to come up with a couple of definitive things to make your sermon sound better. So these are what I came up with because this is what I deal with. The first one is we don't want to go to God because we have our own personal plans of how we want to live. We have our own agenda. And maybe we're afraid if we go to God and we're too intimate with God, that God's going to speak to us, which is what we want, but when God speaks to us, He's going to give us a direction that we don't want. He's going to give us another direction, another road to go down. And we're going to be like, I don't want to go down the road, so I'm just not going to spend time with you because ignorance is bliss. Right, God? No. Another thing is, and this is probably a bigger one, unconfessed sin. Unconfessed sin. The one thing that keeps us from worshiping God and praying to God is unconfessed sin. Because we don't want to go to God when we're in the middle of something like that. When you were a kid, who was the last person you wanted to go to do something bad? It's okay to say it. I wasn't going to my dad. No way. I was the last person. Even though he might get mad, I knew there was probably no one else that was probably going to love me and forgive me more than him. I wasn't going to him. I was scared to death. When we have sin in our lives, we have unconfessed sin, we're not going to our dad. That sin, the shame, and all those other things that come with it, God, I don't want to come to you. And that keeps us from Him. That's why the Bible says over and over again, confess your sins. Confess your sins one another. Confess your sins, and He is faithful and just to forgive us your sins. Because that sin will keep you from Him. There's a whole laundry list of things that keep us from God. What's keeping you from Him? My challenge for you this morning is whatever it is, whether it's sin, whether it's your own schedule or your own plan, whether it's not being patient enough to be waiting for Him, whatever the case may be, my prayer for you is that you will leave it here this morning. Because we are never going to be fully committed to God until we're fully committed to spending time with Him. We have a foundation, and that's great. But what are we doing now? We need Him for strength. We need Him for encouragement. We can't do anything without Him. You want to know God? You want to know His plan for you? You want to know what He has for you? You have to sit at His feet. You have to spend time with Him. That intimate, personal time. Whatever that looks like for you. You know, a lot of times, we get this misconception that pastors, we have it all together. Let me be the first to break that lie. Because we don't. So when I invite you guys into the service, if you guys need prayer, to come up here and pray, to leave things here, listen, I hope that you guys are praying for me and Pastor Rachel just as much as we are praying for you. Because everything that comes from this pulpit, everything that comes from up here is stuff that God is teaching me and in turn me teaching you. So I hope we can do this as a family, praying for one another, lifting up each other's burdens, encouraging one another. That's what we're here for. I'm not perfect. I do not walk on water. Please don't think that. I will quickly prove you wrong. But do you know who does? Do you know who has all the answers? Has everything in order? God. And that's who we should be following. And that's what we should be spending that intimate time with. Then we can grow in our faith. And we can trust Him more. Let's pray. Father God, thank you so much for this morning. God, I thank you for everyone that you brought here. God, I thank you for forgiveness. God, I thank you for your grace. I thank you for your mercy. God, but I thank you for wanting us. God, more than wanting our gifts and our talents and wanting our service, God, what you want. God, but above all of that, God, you just want us. You just want us to kneel at your feet, God, to spend time with you, to walk with you, to talk with you, just like back in the garden, God, in the cool of the evening, just walk and talk. Having a relationship. You don't want lip service. You don't want motions. You want vulnerability. You want us to be genuine. You want us to come before you as we are. We're broken. We struggle. We're not perfect. But God, you don't care about that. You want us as we are. Just like any parent would want their kid. God, that's how you are. God, I pray, Lord, anything that's keeping us from seeing you, anything that's keeping us from praying to you, anything that's keeping us from being intimate with you, God, that you would just take that and throw it to the deepest part of hell, God, because that's where it belongs, God, because nothing can separate us from your love. Don't let the evil one distract us with those thoughts of we're not good enough, we're not worthy. Because, God, you thought we were worthy enough to send your son to die. That's all I need to know. God, bless us now as we leave today. Guys, we leave today. May you have all the honor and glory today, God. We love you and we thank you. In Jesus' name.